Okay, connecting to Facebook right now. Okay, guys, we are now live on Facebook. Okay, just 1 minute, please. Welcome to our dynamic Fireside Chat Zoom event, broadcasting live from the vibrant city of New York. We appreciate your presence at this exceptional and enlightening event. Please introduce yourselves in the chat, mentioning your name, location, and organization. Feel free to use this platform to network and engage with fellow participants. Joining me today are 5 purposefully selected, impactful, and influential leaders who will elevate your leadership style with insights from their successes in diverse fields of operation. Together, we will dive deep into discussions that unlock the secrets that drive positive change, increase knowledge, foster innovation, and cultivate success. Whether you're a seasoned executive, an aspiring leader, a student, or passionate about making a difference, this Fireside Chat event will ignite your ambition, fuel your passion, and empower you to lead with meaningful impact and purpose. It's time to move on to our agenda and formally introduce myself. Also, on the agenda, I will introduce my 5 guest speakers briefly introduce my perspective on effective leadership that will segue into our discussions. Each of my guest speakers is recognized for their impactful work within our communities, locally, nationally, and abroad, and are equipped to answer and discuss with everyone 5 essential questions regarding effective leadership. They will also answer and discuss these questions within 2 sessions, session 1 and 2. The 5 essential questions are as follows. For session 1, our guest speakers will be answering 3 questions. Question number 1, how do they define leadership? Question number 2, what or who influenced them to be a leader and why? And question number 3, what leadership style or styles do they exercise? For session 2, our guest speakers will be answering 2 questions. Question 4, what areas of leadership do they see that need improvement or are lacking in today's world? And last but not least, question 5. What leadership strategies can be utilized to effect positive changes in today's world? After answering the questions for session 1 and at the end of session 3, there will be brief intermissions and commercial breaks coordinated and executed by friend Marta Diaz, our design and branding program manager of Best Media Publishers. For session 3, we will have our interactive Q&A, a platform where everyone's voice is valued. You can participate by asking questions or sharing insights and experiences. Lastly, we will end this event with my closing remarks. Without further ado, I will now formally introduce myself. Who am I? I am a published author of several books on Amazon and other book distribution networks. I love to write and help others bring out their best, personally or professionally. I am also the president and CEO of Best Leaders Consulting, LLC, a leadership and organizational development consulting firm, currently 23 years in business. I also blog as a hobby and edit, publish, and market other individuals' books with my business partner, friend Marta Diaz, who will deliver a brief presentation on our services later during our intermissions. Furthermore, I work for the New York City Department of Education as a principal administrative associate and a grader and learning assistant at the City College of New York under Braven's administration. I graduated from Canarsie High School and obtained a dual Bachelor of Arts degree in political science and sociology from Brooklyn College. I also earned a master's degree in adult education, human resources, and leadership development from Fordham University, Lincoln Center, New York. It is now time to introduce my guest speakers. Present on the panel are leadership expert Crystal Hawkins. Crystal Hawkins is a leadership scholar and thought leader who has held various leadership roles in government close to 30 years. She holds a BS in legal studies and an MPH in public health and is a doctoral candidate pursuing a degree in organizational leadership and organizational behavior. In 2021, she led the charge to establish a $28 million governmental initiative to provide advocacy and services to families via home visits in historically disenfranchised communities with the highest disease burden. In 2022, She was inducted into the Alpha Chi Honor Society, and by late spring of 2024, she will join countless influential professionals listed in the who's who of professionals in the United States. She's passionate about equity for people from all walks of life and in various environments. She also believes in remaining a lifetime learner who can lead others fearlessly to become their best selves, cultivate their gifts and callings, and become leaders in their own right. Mistress Hawkins, thank you for joining us today. Next, we have community relations and domestic violence advocate Enid Ocasio. Unfortunately, Enid will not be joining us today due to an unforeseen circumstance that needs urgent attention. She expresses her sincere apologies for not being here. We will now move on to our next guest speaker, leadership expert, Dr. Marilyn John. Dr. Marilyn John has been involved in public health for more than 25 years on a local, national, and international level. Her areas of expertise include HIV/AIDS, women's health, international health, community mobilization, organizational development, strategic planning, community assessment, cultural diversity, immigrant health, and leadership development, just to name a few. She is greatly respected for her work as a presenter, trainer, program developer, consultant, and advisor to several public health institutions in the United States and abroad. She has received numerous citations and awards for her work and is an advisor to many organizations, including local and international governments. Dr. John has presented at major conferences, both in the United States and abroad, including the International Conference on AIDS in Toronto, Canada, APHA, and the Ghana Government Pharmacist Conference in Ghana. In 2001, she was the keynote speaker for Ghana's World AIDS Day. In 1996, she developed and implemented the first Women and HIV/AIDS program, which included a state-of-the-art female condom education and distribution project for New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. She has held many positions with the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene since 1995, including Special Assistant to the Assistant Commissioner, Director of the Women and HIV/AIDS Program, and Special Populations Coordinator for Immigrants and HIV/AIDS. Dr. John continues to work in several African, Caribbean, and European countries to design culturally sensitive programs and provide training for key personnel in these regions. In 2003, she received a Woman of Great Esteem Award for her work globally at the United Nations Millennium Hotel in New York. Dr. John has and continues to provide consultation services to all levels of government in the United States, Canada, Africa, and the Caribbean. She is very active at the United Nations, advising and working with many NGOs on the United Nations Millennium Goals. She is also the vice president of a prestigious NGO, a heart relief organization headquartered in Ghana since 2000. The organization has made and continues to have a great impact globally, Recently, the organization launched its Global Read a Book project in Ghana, an initiative supported by the Ghanaian government. The organization has been asked to launch this initiative in several other countries, including the Caribbean. As a visionary and expert in women's health, program development, organizational development, and evaluation, Dr. John has been called upon by many organizations for guidance in these areas. Furthermore, Dr. John was most recently one of the vital members of a team contracted by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Health to conduct community health needs assessments for the region and update the region's Healthy People 2020. For many years, she has provided services to many federal agencies, including the Office of Minority Health Resource Center, CDC, the SAMHSA. She is also a gospel preacher and travels the world in this capacity, impacting lives spiritually and mobilizing the faith community around HIV/AIDS and other health issues. She oversees several ministries in Africa, Europe, and the US. She is also the proud mother of 2 sons, Kendall and Jarrell. Dr. John, thank you for joining us today. Our next speaker, leadership consultant and life coach, James Baker Jr. Mr. James Baker Jr. is a Red Hook, Brooklyn, New York native, spiritual leader, and chief encouragement officer of Grace and Truth Leadership. He is a prolifically sought after leadership coach who helps leaders with their call to purpose and an abundant life. Many leaders and audiences know Mr. Baker Jr. as an agent of change. He advocates for reconciliation and redemption through his writings, counsel, and leadership. He was the spiritual leader of a corporate Bible study for a Fortune 500 company and lectured at the proverbial New York Theological Seminary as an adjunct professor. Mr. Baker Jr. compassionately believes in education and leads by example. He holds a BS in labor relations and human resources, a Master of Divinity, and a Master of Religious Education from New York Theological Seminary. Mr. Baker Jr. is also a John C. Maxwell leadership coach. Additionally, he is the author of The Journey of Self-Care from the Inside Out and has attained numerous certifications. He is also a loving father, grandfather, and community supporter and resides in North Carolina. Mr. Baker, thank you for joining us today. Last but not least, we have community relations advocate, Keenan Hudson. After being certified as an adult at 15 and incarcerated for nearly 15 years, Keenan Hudson has since positively transformed his life. While incarcerated, he took full advantage of educational services and self-development opportunities and persevered using lessons learned through education, religion, and music. As a productive citizen, Keenan aims to share about his incarceration and the people who helped him motivate and inspire those he encounters daily. This sharing of knowledge and experience is particularly available and relevant for youths who may be struggling to overcome issues with which he is familiar and for which he can offer positive solutions. Mr. Hudson joins us from Pennsylvania. Thank you, Mr. Hudson, for joining us today. We have now come to the end of our speaker's introduction. Let me now begin this event with a formal introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, and fellow leaders, welcome to our profoundly significant and transformative leadership Fireside Chat Zoom event. This afternoon, we embark on a journey of self-discovery and exploration into the true essence of effective leadership, its definitions, influences, styles, areas for improvement, and strategies for positive changes in our organizations, institutions, communities, and world. As we gather here, we must reflect on a fundamental question. How do we define effective leadership? Is it merely a position of authority and influence, or does it transcend titles and positions and is rooted deeply in core values and actions? This afternoon, we will delve into various perspectives that unravel leadership's dynamic and multifaceted nature. But before we go further, firstly, we must acknowledge that each of us has a unique journey that has shaped us into the leaders we are today. Whether it was a role model, an impactful mentor, a life event, or an innate drive, we all have reasons and stories that have influenced us to become the leaders we are today. However, on a broader spectrum, these narratives are not just stories. They are invaluable lessons and insights into the catalyst that ignite the spark of leadership within us and what connects us all on a deeper level and inspires us to continue our leadership journey today. Information and evolution. Leadership becomes a diverse tapestry of styles, each with unique strengths and nuances, applicable to many situations and circumstances in our world today. From visionary and pathfinder leadership to servant and transformational leadership, as well as autocratic and democratic leadership styles, all encompass the nature of this noble pursuit. Our panelists will share their diverse approaches to the various leadership styles and roles they embody. This diversity of styles and roles validates the uniqueness of our leadership approaches and empowers us to lead authentically, knowing that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to effective leadership. However, what is critical is building a solid foundation on practical leadership core attributes that empowers, unite, and elevate us to reach our full potential and successes. As we highlight, celebrate, and advance our panelists, our own, and others within our circles, strides in leadership practices, we must not ignore the glaring gaps and various areas in need of improvement that persist in today's world, from the lack of emotional intelligence, vision, practical communication, integrity, and trustworthiness, ethical and effective decision-making, and effective collaboration, to the many other facets of lack hindering effective leadership not mentioned. These elements all require our attention and concerted actions for advancement and success. As we acknowledge the challenges, we must also see the opportunities for evolution and progress. Our discussions today will also highlight the areas for improvement and offer constructive insights into the leadership strategies that pave the way for the positive changes needed today. Whether fostering transparency, education, collaboration, promoting innovation, or advocating for social justice, we will explore actionable techniques to bring about meaningful and lasting change. Through our collective efforts, we can address these challenges, instilling a sense of hope and motivation in us all. Finally, as we embark on this journey, let us always remember to embrace the core attributes of effective leadership, which are beautifully stated in my book, The Effective Leader Core Development, starting with accountability, confidence, dedication, education, being an ambassador of learning and growth, exercising empathy, flexibility, forward thinking, intrinsic passion, justice, optimism, self-awareness, tactfulness, resilience, humility, and vision. All these elements are vital for all leaders' effectiveness and success. In conclusion, may our deliberations this afternoon inspire and empower us to lead with wisdom, purpose, integrity, and compassion as we strive to create a better world for ourselves and future generations. Thank you, and let the Leadership Fire Chat commence. Let us now begin with the first question. How do you define leadership? Guest speaker and leadership expert, Crystal Hawkins. Let us start with you. How do you define leadership?
Thank you, Ayadel, and I want to welcome our esteemed guests to this event about leadership. It's such a privilege to speak about leadership because no civilization, no organization, or institution can survive without effective leadership. Scholars, researchers in various disciplines have debated what is the meaning of leadership due to its global importance. Leadership, we all know, is very complex. And in the last 6 decades, there has been over 65 classifications of the scopes of leadership, making it difficult for scholars to devise an adequate definition of this practice. Leadership scholars have argued that leaders are born and not made. Other scholars have asserted that leadership occurs as a result of an ascribed title or position within an organization or type of personality. A synthesized thought of leadership practice is that leadership arises from the foci of group processes, personality perspectives, powerful relationships, and skill perspectives. In my opinion, leadership is a practice or calling where the leader uses their influence to mobilize members of a team to achieve the objectives and goals of an organization or institution. Through personal experience, the most successful leaders do not subscribe to a one-size-fits-all technique and can adapt in every environment that you place them in. Astute leaders can decide if the situation calls for authentic leadership, spiritual leadership, transformational leadership, transactional leadership, servant leadership, or adaptive leadership. Leadership also contains power dynamics and a set of agreements between leaders and followers. And from personal experience, some teams will respond favorably or unfavorably to direction undergirded by referent power, expert power, legitimate power, coercive power, or informational power.
Okay, thank you, Crystal. I will now ask Dr. Marilyn John, how do you define leadership? You're on mute.
Good afternoon, everyone. I trust that all is well. For those of you that are viewing around the world, I hope that you are doing well by God's grace. Leadership is a very controversial topic. It is somewhat kind of challenging to define leadership because you have to look at leadership from many different perspectives. And I heard that Ms. Hawkins brought out a very, very important point that is dear to me. Are leaders born or are they made? That is the question for each and every one of us to look at and to examine. However, I would define leadership as the ability of an individual or a group of people to influence and guide followers or members of an organization, society, or team. And we can have in that guidance, and we've had clear indications here in the United States that how we can guide and influence people into doing negative things. It is often an attribute tied to a person's title, seniority, or ranking hierarchy, which I think it is not good indicators for defining leadership. However, it is an attribute that anyone can have or attain, even those without leadership positions. So again, going back to what I said earlier, using title, ranks, hierarchy is not good indicators. It is an indicator, but it's not good indicators or the best indicators for identifying or defining leadership. Leadership is a developer skill that can be imputed over time. Going back to the issue of, are leaders born or are they made? I could be born into leadership, but not have the skills to make me into an effective leader. But over time, based on my associations, my network, those that are mentoring me, I can have those skills that will allow me to become an effective leader. Leaders are seen as people who make sound decisions. That is critical. They articulate a clear vision, very important. Establish achievable goals and provide those who they lead with the knowledge and tools necessary to achieve those goals. So as a leader, in guiding and leading people, there are certain expectations and there are certain criteria that we must have, that we can impart and guide others into becoming effective leader. And I will just stop there at that point.
Thank you, Marilyn. We are now going to ask Mr. James Baker Jr. to answer the same question. How do you define leadership?
Yes. Well, good afternoon to all and to all the distinguished guests. And thank you, Idel, for, just coordinating this major event and creating a platform where we can just have this kind of discussion around leadership. And I really think the world and the direction of the world, whatever is going to happen is going to happen at the hands of what leaders decide. And just to answer your question in regard to defining leadership, as the previous family shared their definitions, I'd just like to really be brief in my regard to what I think the definition of leadership is. My coach, one who's coached me, is John C. Maxwell, and he shares that leadership is influence. Mm-hmm. Nothing more and nothing less. And what that means, just in a short way, is that you can be a mother, a father. You can be the person who's in the community. You can be the person who's in corporate America, the person that cleans the bathrooms in the workplace. When you have influence, and influence can be for good or for bad. Right? Mm-hmm. We understand that. And I think we all have seen what bad leadership looks like. Mm-hmm. And we also have seen what good leadership looks like, mm-hmm. what great leadership looks like. But it's really, really all about influence. That would be, yes, that's really it, and that's just my definition of it. So thank you for that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker Jr. Now we would ask the same question to Keenan Hudson. Keenan, how do you define leadership?
Yes, first off, I'd like to say thank you for having me. I appreciate, this opportunity to share, some of my perspective concerning leadership. And to sum it all up, just in general, when you think of leadership, it takes a path to get there. Most good leaders are like excellent followers. A lot of times I try to teach when I do speak in a lot of places, I teach that, rock bottom is going to teach you lessons that the mountaintop won't. So for the most part, leadership, whether it be of an organization, a group, a religious sect, whatever the case may be, it all comes, as Dr. James Berger had mentioned, hey, it's all about influence. It's all about not necessarily controlling the narrative, but having an influence over a group of individuals or an organization to pretty much steer them in the direction you want them to steer, whether it be negative or positive. Most times people, they try to sway, get out of line, but I'm just saying us, but in general, a person is only as good as their leadership, whether it be in a household, corporation, establishment, wherever the case may be. But I believe leadership, I have to concur with Dr. Baker when he said that it's definitely about influence. And I end with that.
Okay, thank you, Keenan. We will now move on to the second question. What or who influenced you to be a leader and why? Speakers, please answer questions in the same order as question 1, starting with Crystal and ending with Keenan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayadel. So I just want to say that I've worked in various environments and I've been influenced by countless leaders in these different environments. My whole drive and impetus to become a leader is to model and teach others how to lead consciously through self-inflection, strategy, and with empathy. My end goal is not to lead like the leaders I have experienced with dark leadership traits. I've been influenced to be a leader by the matriarchs in my family who encouraged me to be a great leader. And many of the women in my family who are matriarchs have held leadership positions in various environments. The matriarchs in my family always encouraged me to be kind, to be authentic, to be a trailblazer, and a leader who uses influence for the greater good by helping others to succeed and become leaders in their own right. I am influenced most by my mother, who is a researcher, a scholar, and a registered nurse who was acknowledged in who's who among nursing professionals. She's here today. I just want to let her know that I love her greatly. I love her beyond life. I thank her for giving me life, and thank you, Mom, for being a role model in my life and let me know that leadership is not about a title or a position or using your power or influence to wield it over people to subdue people, but to create a collaborative environment where a team spirit reigns and where we can be successful together.
Wow. Thank you, Krista. That was very touching, very warm. And Mom, thank you for all your contributions to Crystal's life and for her being a blessing today because of the work that you put in and leading an example for her to follow. Next, we will go to Marilyn, Dr. Marilyn John. Dr. Marilyn John, what or who influenced you to be a leader and why? You're on mute. Dr. John, you're on mute.
There are two areas of influence over my life. One, my grandfather and my parents. My parents, though not that educated, they always instilled in me from a little girl that I have to do well, that I can do well. And not only did they speak it into my life, but they also prayed about it. My second level of influence is that of the Lord Jesus Christ. From an early age, getting a divine encounter with the Lord Jesus Christ and studying the Word of God and having my spiritual mentors in my life and knowing the Word of God, that the Word of God say I should go from glory unto glory and victory unto victory, and Christ in me is the hope of glory, and that I'm the head and not the tail. That helped shape me. Not only those words, but the God who I serve is a God of excellence, and that everything that I do must bring him glory. And as I live and dwell and continue to speak that word over my life, God began to open doors and opportunities that I can demonstrate that which he has placed in my life. And along the path and the journey, It's a work, it's a lifelong process. God has put positive mentors in my life, telling me that I can become all that I want to become. And leaders are visionaries. And I had the vision of myself that I will be great, I will do well, and I will impact life. So my whole spiritual journey, compounded by that of my parents planting that seed early, is what influenced me and bring me to the path of where I am today in life.
Dr. John, I say amen to that. Thank you for, God has been a divine guide in my life and has brought me to the point where I am today. And he's a driving force behind what I do as well. Thank you for sharing your testimony. Moving on to Mr. James Baker Jr., the same question. What or who influenced you to be a leader and why?
Okay, so I'd like to say, even as those that preceded me, um, I'm glad that I had to answer this question thirdly, because just in a transparent moment, when I was thinking, obviously I thought about it, but when I thought about it today, I got really emotional. I got really emotional thinking about it. I was like, Lord, I can't, God, don't let this happen. I got to talk. But I want to say that I'm going to start with the latter first. Who influenced me? And so I would say, firstly, it was God that influenced me. God influenced me, and just to just say two things about God real quickly is that I believe in Jeremiah 1:5. It talks about, before I formed you, I knew you.
Amen.
And so I believe that there was something, beyond me that brought me to leadership. And who it was, I think it started with God. And even before I was I'm going to talk about my mom and dad, but before I was even in their womb, he already had,
Yes.
he knew me. You see what I'm saying? And then I'm going to give you one from the New Testament. It's John 15:16. And y'all shouldn't really have me on here because now I'm getting excited. So then it's John 15:16. And it says that God chose me. I didn't choose him. So therefore, so that is really important to me, because I thought when I got ready to do what I wanted to do, then I would come to God. That wasn't the idea. The idea of me being a leader was God was the one who chose me. And lastly, in Ephesians 1, he talks about, before the foundations of the world, we was already cool. So I believe that it was God. He was who. And then I believe the two greatest days of your life, right, are the day you were born. And Mark Twain said it, and the day you find out why. And so what influenced me, and who influenced me in the other realm is my mom and my dad and my grandparents. So those, and all of them are gone. That's why I got emotional, right? They all are gone. But whose shoulders I stand on today, right? Mom and my dad, and then my grandparents were faith leaders, and where I come from, founders of the organization that I come from in church and ministry, and then obviously growing up. And in that context, really influenced and shaped a lot of why I'm a leader today, between God and my parents and my grandparents. And then what influenced me was my own experience growing up in the project, growing up in Red Hook projects, life being touched by drugs, and all of those things. Listen to the words I'm going to say, having survived all of those things, going to corporate America and being a Black man, right? I just want to be really frank with this, right? Being a Black man, coming through the projects, going to corporate America, and if anybody knows the challenges that is faced by Black men in corporate America, at least when I was coming up, and I don't know if it's changed much today, but I know when I was coming up, that was a challenge in of itself. So having survived that, and then the next S I want to talk about is having some measure of success going to school, getting my education, and fighting through all of the discrimination, fighting through all of the challenges, life challenges, divorce, as I said, many of the things that come with it, doing church, having a church, doing all of those things were things that I survived and having some measure of success, getting my education. But then the last S would be significance, having going through those things and then being able to add value to others. I think so. Surviving, some measure of success, which is just really for you, but really, leadership for me is really being able to touch others in a real way. So that's what I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you, James Baker, for that. And, that powerful point. And I see something in common with everyone, how God and family is important here. Family plays a very great role, parents, grandparents, in shaping our lives as well. Thank you. So we'll now move on to our next speaker, Keenan Hudson. Can you please answer the same question? What or who influenced you to be a leader and why?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, to answer that question, of who influenced me, first and foremost, coming up in the city of Philadelphia, in a single parent household, there was really no traits of possible leadership. My mother, she was, stuck with work and trying to make a, way for the kids. So for the most part, as any average, especially Black male, city of Philadelphia, they turn to the streets. So individuals that are on the streets have negative influence were the leadership to look up to. So with that being said, eventually within the midst of the streets, I wound up getting around the wrong crowds, which wound up actually landing me almost 15 years in prison as a child, as a juvenile. So that came from following the leader. So what I had to recognize during my incarceration here as a 15-year-old child, trying to figure out who I am, and what am I supposed to become? I had to change the narrative and said, no, you're no longer going to follow that leader. So speaking from this aspect is more so of my experience that I've been through, which changed me over to leadership. I said, because the people that you follow behind, landed you in the situation that you're in. They may have did what they say I've done, but I wasn't who they say I was. So for the most part, throughout my whole experience, whether I say through incarceration, knowing the things that I had to take control of in my life, and then me return to society, but giving back, you know, was the point where I seen that I was an actual true leader. Because again, everybody's not called to lead. Everybody's not called to be the head. Everybody's not called, what I'm saying, to be the above. So when I knew that, when I see that I had influence over people, I knew that it was then that my testimony, was how other people were going to overcome. But of course, by the blood, yes, but part of that is by a testimony. So our testimonies, the things that we've been through, is not for us to keep for ourselves, but it's to display to other human beings so they may learn from those mistakes that we've been through. So I believe that my experiences that I've been through is what made me a leader.
Thank you, Keenan. I also hear another common thread here of the statement that says, it's through my experiences that brought me up to be a leader, because now I want to help others to be free and not to go through the same thing as well. So God uses our experiences, no matter how low we go in life. Never think that you can't be a leader. It's more impactful and powerful when we utilize those experiences to lead and help other people out. And you have a heart of a leader, a true servant leader, when you've gone through some things and you turn around and you can now help other people out. Not become bitter, not become angry and blame the world, but you became a positive force and a powerful force because you took your experience and you turn it around and make it something positive, good, and effective as a leader to help others out. Thank you for sharing those testimonies. Okay. Thank you, everyone, again for your answers. You have provided to question 1 and 2. It is now time for us to answer the third question. What leadership style or styles do you exercise? In the same order, starting with Crystal.
Thank you, Ayadel. And I just want to say, with no pun intended, this fire chat is on fire. And I'm feeling my fellow panelists. Number one, God is the optimal leader. And we know how serious leadership is to him. And to take it back to a biblical account about dark leadership or leadership traits has to do with lack of humility and envy and jealousy. So I want to take you back to heaven, where at one point Satan himself was there, leading other angels and also leading entertainment and music. He was a champion in that area. And what he did was he said that he will ascend into the heaven and he will be like the Most High. To show you how serious leadership is, he cast Satan and a third of the angels out of heaven. So humility in leadership is very important to him. And I want to say that with leadership styles, most leaders don't have a one size fits all, but they have a primary and secondary leadership style.
Absolutely.
My predominant leadership style is one of a transformational leader. Transformational leaders are inspirational. They care for their followers. They exude gravitas in stressful times of change, and they cultivate the emergence of new leaders. Transformational leaders also have moral conduct, ethical performance. They manage stakeholder relationships proficiently, and they also exhibit excellence in long-term goals such as organizational sustainability and social change. And situational leadership, which is my second leadership style, is critical as this leadership enables leaders to pivot, adapt, align, and formulate an effective response to an emergent or challenging situation or situations. Some emergent situations that are an example that we all experience is the most recent pandemic, where every person, institution, organization, and institution have been impacted.
Thank you, Crystal. We will now ask the same question to Dr. John. What leadership style or styles do you exercise?
It's very difficult for me to give a specific, and let me give you the reasons why. One of the things that leaders don't do is to understand the organizational culture, to assess the strengths and the weaknesses of those that they lead. If we were to do this, then once I understand what the organizational culture is, then I know what approach that I should take. Is it an authoritative one? Is it an affiliate one? Is it a coercive one? So it's all in understanding the organizational culture and what the goal of that particular organization is. For example, I will not use the same strategy in dealing with a bunch of government ministers in Africa. The same strategies I cannot use with dealing with some nonprofit organizations where the organizational culture is very toxic. It's a clearly different approach and style that I would have to use. An organizational culture is so important. I don't care how good of a leader we are, if we don't go in and do our homework by understanding what the organizational culture is, doing a SWOT analysis and doing the things that we as leaders should do in preparation of working with any organization or society, then we will be at loss. Understanding what the key players are in that organization and what modes of corrective action do they use. So until I, as a leader, quote unquote, true leader, do my homework, then and only then can I say, well, I'm going to utilize this particular style. But even in utilizing a particular style, I may have to take bits and pieces from other styles and other models. So it's not an easy question for me to answer to say, this is my style. But there are certain fundamentals across the board when you look at leadership qualities. We have to be able to articulate, to communicate, to understand, to do our homework. We have to have self-confidence. We have to be knowledgeable. Those are given.
Correct. And I agree with Dr. John. The leadership style can be very flexible, adaptable. It's not a one-size-fits-all deal. You really have to study the organization, understand the culture to be able to sustain your work environment, to make it sustainable. Then the word is to make it sustainable and working for you to achieving your goals and your objectives of being there. So the next person is Mr. James Baker. Same question. What leadership styles do you exercise? Style or styles do you exercise?
Yeah, so I exercise the servant leadership style. I exercise that. And in that servant leadership model, I believe that to whom much is given, much is required. In the servant leadership model, I understand that there will be times when you will be leading while you are bleeding, literally. In the servant leadership style, you will be leading while in pain yourself. In the servant leadership style, you will need to know how to deploy self-care. So those are things that I practice. In addition to that, I am a lifelong learner leader. In addition to that, I know that I operate as the emotionally intelligent leader. And last but not least, as my sister said, Sister Crystal, I operate in the transformational leader. And I just wanted to add to the transformational leader, as she so eloquently said, that there are two different types of, there's a transformational leader and then there's the transactional leader. Now, while they are both, they have pros and cons to them. Just for the brevity of time, I just wanted to share that the transformational leader is one who thinks of all. When people are with them, they make everybody better. They know how to lift the environment up, those that are near them. It's almost like, I don't know if I hate to use the sports analogy with sports, but I'll use it. The baseball or the basketball player or the football player, that makes everybody better because they are there. People are inspired by them. People do more than they would have done had it not been for their influence. And then the transactional leader, though there are pros and cons, they're more individualized. Their leadership are more climbing up the ladder and, obviously bringing benefits, not, to the organization, but more importantly, they're self-motivated, for themselves. Whereas the transformational leader, they're people motivated. Their motivation is really to see everybody, get a piece of the pie.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Baker, for saying that. It makes us all think now, when you're working or you're going to work in an environment, study the leadership style, do some research, know what you're heading into. Can you function in that environment? Can you? So thank you very much for, kind of like defining the different types of leadership styles that people embody. Sometimes you could have one or two. Some people have a lot. They are so adaptable. They're so flexible with their styles, while others might be rigid and just stuck in one mode. So it's very important to know the leader that you're going to be working under or the leader that you're becoming as an individual. Next, we have Keenan Hudson. Same question.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
leadership? Mhm.
Yeah, so in general, I believe that like with leadership traits or styles, um, I believe like you just mentioned, many of us can have different ones. One of the ones that stick out actually with me the most is probably going to be like the coaching leadership style, because for the most part, it's like more of that one-on-one engaging, talking and helping, which actually leans aside of servitude as well. So that servant leadership style as well, because a lot of times when you are leading people, you have to remember that you probably once was in a position they were in. And I learned that from actually like from the job force when I was a team leader. I had to know that before I was a team lead, that I was a regular lines person. So I knew the type of pressures that, well, before I became leader, I knew that I did not know the type of pressures that leaders were under until I was in that position. So, with that being said, a lot of patience had to be practiced during that time. So it wasn't more so, hey, I'm your boss or I'm over you, do as I say. But I had to learn the style of coaching people, helping others, letting them know, hey, it's all right. I understand you probably made a mistake, but the coaching style really brings out the goodness in people, versus, controlling things with an iron fist. So if you were to ask which leading style do I practice, it's the coaching leadership style.
Thank you, Keenan. And thank you, everyone, for a very informative and enlightening answers to the question 3. We have now come to the end of session 1, and it is time for a brief intermission and commercial break coordinated by friend Marta Diaz, our design and branding program manager of Best Media Publishers.
Our free membership includes access to digital resources, exclusive content, and a thriving online community where you can share your love for books with like-minded readers worldwide. You will also have the chance to express your opinion by writing helpful book reviews for authors on different platforms. This helps you grow your audience and let other readers discover your books. So what are you waiting for? Join us today and embark on a literary journey like no other. But wait, there's more. Are you ready to take your book club experience to the next level? For just $14 a month or $133 a year, you can unlock unlimited book advertising, exclusive Zoom book discussion sections with other authors and book lovers within our group community. Get online reviews for your books on different networks where books are sold and shared. Get basic marketing materials to help you promote your writing projects. Bonus, you can unlock our special book club paid services at a discount rate. These include professional book designs, online publishing, and an advanced promotional tool to showcase your work. Whether you are a new author excited to share your work or a seasoned writer seeking connections with fellow book lovers, our paid membership offers you the tools you need to thrive in the literary world. Until the next time, keep turning those pages and embracing the magic of storytelling. See you in the next chapter.
Wow, how beautiful. Thank you, Freddie, for that wonderful presentation. I was sorry, not sure what this. Sorry about that. Oh, okay, good. I was just told that Keenan, you have to leave early today.
Yes, yeah, I was definitely contemplating on the 4:15 time frame. And what you
Okay.
had, I believe you said an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay, so
Yeah,
you'll be leaving us now. I just wanted to acknowledge your presence and that you'll be leaving us. And thank you so much for joining us. Yes?
I have to leave just now also.
Oh, okay. All right. So if you have to leave, you have to leave. We will continue on with those who are here. Okay. But I just want to say thank you for your presence and contributing to this beautiful discussion today.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you having me. And definitely look forward for near future events so we can collaborate as well. I know you mentioned some things about the publishing, the books and things. You know I didn't mention that I was a published author as well. But I believe that like in the near future, I can drop some things in the chat, KeenanHudson.com,
Yes,
published
please.
author of The Unspoken Truth and Life Story. So
Yes,
yeah, we
please
can
share that
speak more.
information with us. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Okay. You take care. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to begin session 2 of this event. In session 2, our speakers will be answering and discussing 2 essential questions, starting with question 4. What areas of leadership do you see that need improvement or are lacking in today's world? Can we start with Dr. Marilyn John first on this one?
There are quite a bit of things that, first of all, it's hard to compare global leadership on a global level with leadership that are on a local or national level. Globally, that needs to change. What I will refer back to is the Word of God. The Bible says, when the righteous rule, the people are happy. So on a global piece, first of all, we need righteous men and women to lead. Things will change. We see clear evidence of when we don't have righteous leaders leading. We see that within our eyes, all that's going on around the world right now. And it's all about coming back to the Bible and to the word, to Jesus and what he said. When the righteous rule, then the people are happy. If we were to search the Bible, we would see that all that happened when righteous men and women were ruling. We all know the story of Joseph. And it goes on and on and on and on. So on a global peace, we need righteous men and women to lead. Things that need to change on a much smaller scale is that leaders themselves need to understand that they are humans, that they have shortcomings. So we must have that level of self-awareness that we are not perfect and identifying our weaknesses and allowing God, as well as those who are mentors, to help us to overcome that. We do make mistakes. So we must become more self-aware. We must, as leaders, need to know that we must do our homework. A lot of time, and particularly with churches, and I've had the opportunity of working with churches all over this country for the federal government, as well as a minister working with churches all over the world. And one of the things I found as I did work for the federal government as a consultant with churches is that a lot of times in the church, they put people in positions without doing their homework of finding out what the strengths and the weaknesses of those individuals are. We don't do our homework. And then you put someone, and when they can't do the job, you say they're not doing it. But did you do your homework? No. If you had done your homework, you would realize that this person was weak in this. You did not put that person up there because sister so-and-so or brother so-and-so put the most money in the offering or whatever. We got to do our homework. We have to do our assessments. We need to be more knowledgeable. I don't want to follow someone who is not knowledgeable, who don't have more information than I do. Because I need to know. I need to grow so that I can impart onto people. I need information so that I can share with the organizations that I work with. One of the things we need to change, we must be open to change. Change is inevitable. We must be open to change. Like, case in point, when I was working, I'm retired now. I've always had secretaries. I've had 3 secretaries. They did everything for me. So it had its good points, but there was a short back because here I am today, even to get my picture on the Zoom, I'm deficient in that area. So coming from then, where we did not have all that updated technology to now, so we have to be open to change. I have to be open to change. I have to open myself up to learn and want to learn that things are not constant. They're always changing. We must develop positive attitudes. The spirit of the head falls down to the people. A lot of times we may go into a situation and we may be close to, let's say, in the case of an organization with the director, and we just listen to what the director say, and then we begin to we come with preconceived notions, and whatever strategy we use, it's skewed. So we must have positive attitudes. One of the things that leaders don't do is seek out growth opportunities. We should be able, like I said, things are not constant. things are always changing. We need to be doing projections and based on the projections that we see, put things in place. We have to grow. As we want the organization to grow, how can we put them in a position of growth when we are not growing in our knowledge and opportunities? And that's my perspective.
Thank you, Dr. John, for that perspective. Would you be able to answer question 5 before you leave? And I will switch back to the other attendees.
I will give it a little more time. I'll text my people because I have another conference.
Okay. Thank you for that honest answer. And, you know, it's very real that we need to have that kind of a attitude in developing our core and really looking at people more in depth, not at surface. You know, doing research on, you know, people's core abilities and when considering leadership roles and putting people in those positions. Sometimes they do background checks, but the background checks they do is just general stuff like for crime and things of that nature. But I think in the interview process, they need to be some questions that will actually get to know people, who they really are at their core. What are their values? You know, what approaches they utilize to solve problems? And all of these different things are important when it comes to leadership. It's not based on how people look or who knows who or all of these kinds of network, but it is time that we start looking for the things that will drive productivity, efficiency, and you know, empathy, and all the things that are needed that leaders should embody to be successful. Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to Crystal, yes, and then James to answer that same question. What areas of leadership do you see that need improvement or are lacking in today's world?
Yes, I definitely agree with Dr. John on how she presented how they should be able to adjust to change, and they should be able to exude a positive attitude that will impact their followers. Also, too, in the same vein as attitudes, I want to point out the traits of leaders that are injurious to a corporation or to any institution that we find ourselves in, whether it's the church or like Dr. John was saying, but it applies to every institution. So when leaders don't exemplify ethical or moral leadership, they reflect a dark side of leadership, because a lot of leaders can take their power and take their position and their egos become inflated and they hurt everyone that they lead. So the dark side of leadership is promulgated by the hunger for power. Most often these leaders are morally bankrupt. They don't have emotional intelligence. Many times they lack empathy. And as many of the panelists said here, they're unconscious and they do not have the ability for self-reflection, for improvement, and accountability for their own actions. Such leaders are really those who are selfish. They're concerned about themselves, not the members that they are charged to lead. And many of the traits that I'm speaking of are traits of hubristic leaders, narcissistic leaders, and Machiavellian leaders. So these leaders, they do a lot of damage to organizations. They create counterproductive corporate cultures and climates. They support the damage of the reputation of organizations, and they also are the ones that foster legal and financial challenges for these organizations that can result in hefty fines and loss of valuable customers. So these people who have hubristic traits, they also don't support growth of their followers under their tutelage. And they also are unethical. They engage in practices that lead to corporate scandals, and they create environments that's unhealthy for everyone around them. Also, narcissistic leaders are self-absorbed. They lack empathy. They are not accountable for their actions. They have inflated sense of entitlement, and they often treat workers as objects. Many times they are envious of subordinates and colleagues that they perceive as a threat. And narcissistic leaders are hard to please. They're always raising the bar in an unfair way when members are trying to excel and do their work. And they set unrealistic goals that are unreachable, devastating those who work under their leadership. These leaders are often a culprit for high turnover, employee exodus, and low productivity in organizations. So these are leadership styles that corporations should screen for. I hear what others said earlier. And actually, Ayadel, I really hear you when you say that you should really screen these leaders. And that was actually one of my recommendations in the last question. Machiavellian leaders have an insatiable hunger for power, and they're very cunning. They lack empathy, and they're heartless. They'll step on anyone to seize power or to sustain it. These leaders are selfish, and organizations who discern these traits should never hire them or keep them in their organizations. As Dr. John said, these leaders impact the members under them because they are the head. And these Machiavellian leaders do not encourage collaboration. They often encourage siloed teams. They use methods of division, divide and conquer to create diversions, confusion, and to maintain control. And often incite and sustain contention among teams. They use drama, and they often act like victims to attain sympathy of others. Again, I say organizations should avoid these leaders who have these traits. And also, I would like to offer a strong word of caution to all leaders and inspiring leaders to refrain from embracing these dark leadership traits. Universal laws are immutable. It is just a matter of time that these leaders reap what they sow and experience the same treatment that they have inflicted upon others.
Wow, that's a bomb you just dropped there, Crystal. Thank you for that. We will now move on to Mr. James Baker with the same question. What areas of leadership do you see that need improvement or are lacking in today's world?
So I think maybe I'm understanding this wrong. Right? It seems like these two questions, they go together, because it seems like what I'm hearing that it's been brought out what areas are lacking, but also they're providing some solution as well. So which you some of the strategies. So that's what I've heard from both of my colleagues. But just to answer, what I think. Well, one of the things I think that's in front of us, and in fact, both of my sisters did just a wonderful job. But I think what's heading in front of us is that we have a leadership shortage that will perhaps happen as well, because we have folks that are baby boomers that are looking now to get out of leadership and make their way out. And then we have the younger generation, the generation like millennials and Zs, and many of them are just, and this is in corporate America as well as in the church. Many of them are just not satisfied with what they see, and they're just they're flipping and flopping, going here and there. And in fact, so many of them are just going to start their own thing. They're going to start their own thing, so they don't have to be a part of anyone, because they don't really value what's going on. So I think that's something that we're headed for, and so what I think, those are some of the things that I see where we could use some improvement so that we can have some retention and solid leaders, if you will, or even those that are upcoming. Some of the things that I think what would remediate that, would help to mitigate that, I believe, would be to have things like trainings, teaching folks the pitfalls of leadership. As Sister was talking about, I did training with that. She talked about overcoming She talked about the dark side of leadership. Well, there's a book out. There are two books out: The Dark Side of Leadership and Overcoming the Dark Side of Leadership. And both of them are by Gary McIntosh and Sam Reamer. And so my point is, in there you'll see, and these are the kind, I think, that trainings would really be teaching, having classes that shows what are the things that you have to be alert of, right? Because as coming up into leadership, we always look at many times folks are looking at the glamour and the shiny parts of it, but they don't understand that, like as Sister was saying, there's a dark side of it as well. And also, I think some of the things that is a problem where we need improvement in is self-care. We need to help leaders understand how to care for themselves. Many times we have leaders, they're leading organizations, they're leading people, they're taking care of everybody, but they don't take care of themselves, which is just a rabbit hole. I learned that in North Carolina, because I didn't know that. I come from the city, but I heard a rabbit hole. You're just kind of working yourself into a rabbit hole when you do these kind of things. So, leaders are readers, sisters, leaders, I'm going to say that again. Leaders are readers. And then we learn in some of my leadership, and everybody else have big screen televisions, and so, but leaders are really readers. And so the thing that I think is really important is that if I know you're going to get into that next, but some of the strategies that we can do, but that's what I got for you on that.
Well, thank you. And I'm not going to comment. I'm just going to keep moving it along because we're pressed for time.
Yeah.
So let's move on. So now we're going to move on to question 5. What leadership strategies can be utilized to effect positive changes in today's world? And this time we'll start with Dr. John again.
Oh, no, please. Again, that is a very hard question. And I would go back to what I've said before. No one size fit all. And again, one have to do their homework, understanding the organizational culture, understanding the organizational culture, or understanding the dynamics that lead up to certain situations or circumstances that have impacted the leadership in a negative way. Okay, so it's kind of hard to say, to pinpoint a specific strategy. That is one have to do their homework in order to identify what is the best strategy to deal with whatever the situation may be at that particular organization or institution. So it's kind of hard to say for me to pinpoint, to identify a specific strategy. But one of the things that I love that Mr. Baker said, I am one of those who believe in education. I believe in training, because when we train, provide certain training for people to understand what's going on, to understand what's happening with the organization. We have to start somewhere with the leaders themselves in the organization. I heard Crystal mention that a lot of time in organization, you have people who are not even qualified, and they are leading people who are more qualified than them. So that is a setup for failure right there. Right there is a setup of failure. So it's hard to come up with a specific answer in terms of identifying a strategy, because there's so much that one have to understand in terms of the dynamics of the organization.
Yes. So it all goes back to evaluating the problems in order to come up with solutions. And one has to be able to be curious as well, and wanting to know, to find out, to research before they can come up with effective solutions. It all goes back to that. Next, we'll move on to Crystal to answer that question. Crystal, what leadership strategies can be utilized to effect positive change in today's world?
I think, they said a mouthful, and it's hard to come after Dr. John and James. I believe that organizations should find leaders who are willing to employ systems-based approaches, because systems leaders, they look at not just the members, they look at the whole system on how they can make impact. I think it was the philosopher Aristotle who said that the whole is not greater than the sum of the parts.
Mm-hmm.
So also too, I want to revert back to what Ayadel said. During hiring practices, leaders and organizations should use interview questions to uncover if leaders are willing to create and be part of a learning organization. So organizations that cannot advance through learning, they cease to exist. In business, the model in organizations is that organizations who can't change and adapt, they cease to exist and they die. So learning organizations foster continued learning and innovation to reduce corporate stagnation and allow the organization to stay on a cutting edge. Leaders and members without a willingness to learn and innovate are a detriment to any organization. So, like James said, leaders are readers, and like Dr. Marilyn John said, that they have to have a growth mindset and they have to be able to want to be trained because leadership is an iterative process. You don't become a leader and you arrive. You have to be open to learn, and you also have to demonstrate that for your members and those that are following you. And finally, organizations should administer evidence-based, validated survey questionnaires to assess leadership styles and behaviors to identify any red flags for their organizations. The results of these surveys will help organizations to determine if the candidates that they selected have work styles and behaviors that will support the progression and the success of the organization and the institute.
Thank you, Crystal. And that also supports one of my saying that says leadership is not a destination. It's a constant evolution. You're evolving with time, with change, with situations, circumstances. So you can never just say, oh wow, I'm a leader and I've arrived. It's never like that. It's constantly growing. You have to grow, you have to educate yourself. Okay, so I will move on to Mr. James Baker with the same question, please.
Yep. And leadership is a process, right? And it's a process that is a long-term endeavor. It is a long-term endeavor. It is not something where, it's instant and quick. It is something that takes time and that takes time to build your foundation for your organization or your family or whatever it is that you are building or that you are working on. It takes time to build that, and you will have some mistakes. But I like the idea of strategies. I like the idea of principles that you can use wherever. Obviously, there are always organizations that are unique and distinct in what they do. But I relish in the fact that there's some simple things that we can look at when we look at organizations. And one of those are people's morale. Where every organization, one of the things I want to know it don't matter what you do. I know everybody's unique, but how's the morale here? I want to know how is the morale. Those are the kind of things and I can tell that through the people when I speak to them. And when I come in as a consultant, everybody's unique and everything is different. But I come in and I want to know certain things like morale, because if I got good morale or if I got bad morale, I know what kind of strategies to deploy. And there are certain things that are just, obviously everything is unique, but there are certain things that are standard, right? So, sister, she said about managing change well. Well, that's going to be one of them. That's going to be one of the things, having something where we have a team and a group of people that are able to manage change, that we have to be intentional about training. That's number two. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm ready for this. This is what I do. Building trust with folks. I want, if anything, you might not like me, but you trust me. I'm not here to hurt you. I might have some rules. I'm here that I want the organization to thrive, but I also want the best for you as well. And I've proven that by how I handle you. I want to build trust. I want to delegate effectively. I want to put people in the best positions to succeed. right? And I want to have a diverse workforce. You know, I want to, if it means racially, yes, I want to have a diverse. And if it's not racially, then the other folks, if they're the same race, then have that workforce diverse as well. Whichever way that gives me the best chance to be to foster a work culture and a good, healthy culture, and to show them what that looks like, and to create an encouraging and encourage collaboration and networking. Another one that I want to encourage that. So I want to create an environment where we're networking, that we're networking with each other, that we no one person has the answers, and we all have the answers, and to create that. You know what I'm saying? The other thing is to practice good decision making. So the only way we're going to practice good decision making is we're going to see what bad decisions look like, and we're going to see when we make some bad decisions, how do we move past that? How do we learn from that? Another thing is, teach everyone that we learn from our failures. We learn from our failures. We learn from our failures. And here's another one and I'm going to give you two more and I'm going to stop. Here's another. We don't operate in isolation. That's one that we don't operate in isolation. This is one of the things we can't do. Everything is not on you. It's on us. You know what I'm saying? It's on us. And lastly, I'm going to say we lead by example. We lead by example. These are some of those are 12 I just gave you right there, that I put together, that I teach, that I do, and I consult with, that I bring no matter where I go. I don't care what kind of organization it is. I bring those there and they work. They work because it fleshes out some of the immediate problems, which most times it is a morale issue. Most time, the culture is broken. We have factions and we have cliques and this is in church and in business. And how do we flesh that out? Wherever you go, wherever you go, it's what do you have? The haves and the have-nots. It's the same stuff. Some things are just typical across the board. And part of leadership is being able to distinguish those things, to be able to come together with a team of folks that understand that, and we're going to remediate that, and we're going to make this place better. We're going to make this place better because we're here. And I'll say this as I close. I'm sorry, I hope I'm not being too long. When I go somewhere, the way I see it, the places, and I don't mean this in an arrogant way. I mean this in a way that when I come, I'm bringing something to that table. The value I bring is going to help us be better. Whether it is my smile in the morning, whether it is how I connect with people, whatever it is, when I come, that organization will be better because I was there.
Bring something positive. Thank you, Mr. James. Even if it's a smile, bring it in the atmosphere and effect positive change. Okay, so thank you. We have now come to the end of session 2. But before we move on to session 3, which is our Q&A segment, we have a brief intermission and a commercial break coordinated by friend Marta Diaz, our design and branding manager of Best Media Publishers.
I have to leave.
Okay, Marilyn, thank you so much.
Bye,
Thank you, Marilyn.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Great meeting you. Thank you so much for your insight. Great meeting you.
Yes.
Wow. I don't even know where to begin. I just want to begin to say that I'm an apprentice of this group. I really appreciate everyone over here. I'm learning so much and I'm so grateful. I think it's a godsend. And I'm supposed to be here with you guys, and I appreciate you all.
And thank you. We appreciate you.
So let's just begin. I'm gonna introduce you to our KDP Publishing bundle that we have for all of you that wants to be a self-published authors. And I'm sure after this day, everyone wants to write something. You should be inspired because I know I am. But well, let me begin with saying that we know that you out there have a dream of becoming a published author, and we can help you because IODL has experience writing as a leadership a leadership writer, and I have expertise on marketing and digital marketing. And we can help you bring that dream to conclusion. Okay, so we have a packages. Huh?
Yo, remember when he used to be strict and not let nobody talk to Naomi, bro? Yeah, that nigga.
Excuse me?
Oh, no, I think somebody has their microphone is
Okay.
on.
Okay, guys, so we can help you. We have a KDP Amazon Publishing Bundle. It's like your personal roadmap of becoming your self-published author superstar. And we are right here for you, cheering you up in every step of the way. So let me tell you what we have. We have a bronze package that is $300. It's less than 100 pages, or 500 is 101 pages plus. And that includes a book cover design and layout, formatting, line editing, and proofreading, Amazon author selling account. That's a KDP Direct. And this a keyword research and a publishing online on Amazon. So those are what you're gonna have on every other package. So that's the general. And we also have a marketing bundle that is the silver with the bronze. So you're also gonna have a website, a video trailer, merchandises, book launch party events, bookmarks, 2 QR codes, and promotional digital cards. And the gold package is also the same as the silver, but a little bit more. And you can see it on your screen right now. And that's what we can offer you right now for today.
Thank you, Franny, for that beautiful presentation. It's now time to begin our session 3. Attendees, you can now direct questions to our speakers and share your insights and experiences regarding today's subject matters. Please use the Zoom raise hand icon to indicate that you have a question, or write your question in the chat. Okay, we have Sheila with a question. Go ahead, Sheila. Ask your question.
I think I have more of a comment.
Okay.
And the question that you asked, the third question about what can be done to improve leadership. It's a reality that we work with bad leaders, and that they probably shouldn't be in the positions that they're in. I think in leadership, the challenge really is, how do you work through that? How do you work with bad actors? How do you manage or hold them into account, but also be able to be an example? So I say this to say, because I'm a practical person, and in an ideal world, everyone would be leading for the good, but that's just not what it is. So I guess my response or question would be, what are more strategies on how to work with bad leadership, but continue to stay on your path?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, Krista, would you want to answer that question? And James, you have answers?
We're on Facebook and we're on YouTube. I really don't want to answer that. I'm just making a joke. You'd never really work through working with a bad actor or bad leader. You merely survive through that. And these bad actors impact your health They impact your well-being. They impact your self-esteem, and they thwart any sort of creativity and moving forward. And some of these bad actors, if they see a light in an employee or colleague, they try to block block that light that no one else sees it, so that they can't move forward and realize their own potential. So the only thing I can say is that you keep good notes and you document. Um, Go to therapy if you can, so that you can heal yourself while you're working with this bad leader. I'm also too to speak to what Dr. John was saying, and James Baker was saying, that your spiritual walk or your spiritual practice is one that can ground you. And I just want to be respectful, because everyone does not come from the church. People have different forms of practice and leadership, but whatever your spiritual belief is, you reach out to that higher power to be able to give you endurance and to sustain you, so that you can survive. And one thing that I know is that trouble doesn't last always, and there's a time and season for everything. And from personal experience, is that these leaders are so egotistical and self-destructive, that even though these corporations or organizations support them because they're working, but they're hurting other people, eventually, like I said before, God, the universe, it turns around, and that leader eventually is ousted from their position. So the main thing you have to do is just exercise patience. Make sure you take good notes in case you have to report it. And I heard on this panel, self-care. Take care of yourself while you're dealing with this leader, because they impact your health. And just stay hopeful. Stay hopeful, because things have a way of changing. And then also, while you're there, don't focus on that leader and their negative aspects. Try to find a way to focus on what can make you better. Focus on your craft, and use that negative energy to propel you to do something positive in your life, so that you could leave that leader. And that's all I have to add.
Thank you. That was perfect. What you just said. Sometimes you have to redirect your focus off of the negative and focus yourself into something positive and develop yourself. And for me too, I've had bad leader before in my younger days. And sometimes it calls to leave a situation too, if it gets that bad. But, I prayed about it. I turned to God, and he delivered me, like he delivered the people of Israel from Pharaoh's situation. He delivered me. So for each, it might be different circumstances. You can work with it, to work around it, or sometimes you just, oops, I'm gone. James?
Yes. So I've definitely, by the way, to our sister, man, that was a great question. And Krista gave some great answers, and I'm just really enjoying our time. But let me I think, so 3 books I'd like to recommend real quickly. One of them is How to Lead When You're Not in Charge by Clay Scroggins, right? How to Lead When You're Not in Charge by Clay Scroggins. Another one is Chess, Not Checkers, by Mark Miller. And lastly, another one, Help, I Work with People. Help, I Work with People. That's by Chad Veach. And and lastly, I will tell you this, that I've worked in those situations over. I think there's somebody on the call, I think it is. Let me just, man, I messed up something right here. But it was someone on here, they know. And my career was chock full of that, as a Black man working in corporate America. And man, and all I can say to that sister is that, as Idel said, I saw each one of those people that meant evil towards me over time. It was years sometimes, God sustained me. Many times I felt like I was in prison like Joseph and everything. But when it was all said and done, all of it made me a better man today. You know, all of it made me a better. I didn't allow it to make me bitter. I did question a lot of it, you know, personally. It did put me through a lot of trauma, you know, and I must say that. But God really, and you know, as our sister said, coming to our faith, I am a faith leader, and I like the fact that we have to respect that everybody's not from that place. But sometimes it's these kind of things that will help draw you closer to your faith in God. It's situations like the workplace, situations like drugs, situations like divorce, all of those things, if utilized well, it may have been meant for evil, but God has a way of turning it for your good. So thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you, James and Crystal, for answering her. And I see a comment in the chat by Dr. Pat Riley. She says, bad leaders show you aspects that you don't want to incorporate into your leadership style. Very true. A lot of bad leaders, they have taught me what to be and what not to be. Do we have any questions? Any more questions? Thank you, Sheila. Yes. Anyone else? Question, comments? If not, we kind of like carried you guys a long way on this one. I was supposed to end at 4:15, but it's now what? Almost 2 o'clock. So we're at the end now. So if we don't have any questions or comments, we will come to a close. One last call.
I'll make a comment. This is Dr. Pat Riley.
Okay.
One of the things that I really hold true to is that we have to be consistent in who we are, and know who we are and whose we are. I think what happens when we encounter bad leadership, we try to fit in and try to twist ourselves into pretzels. But that's why God said we're going to have trials and tribulations. So we go through trials and tribulations to know that God is refining us to be consistent in what He calls good leadership or to strive towards leadership. But what I found is that people change themselves to accommodate bad leadership only to make their leadership weak. And so that's, I could say more, but it's, the time has been well spent. Come on now.
Thank you, Dr. Pat Riley. Stay connected with us in our network. Yeah. All right. So if no more comments or questions, we'll move on. And that would be it for today until we do another session. So let's see. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna. Our leadership chat, fire chat ends, and I appreciate the knowledge and insights shared and the meaningful connections formed during our time together. As we conclude this event, let us reflect on the key takeaways. Our discussions have been enlightening and inspiring, from defining leadership to exploring its various styles and examining areas for improvement in today's world. We are reminded that leadership is not merely a title, but a commitment to serving others with integrity, empathy, meaningful purpose, and vision. I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guest speakers, Crystal Hawkins, Dr. Marilyn John, James Baker Jr., and Keenan Hudson for their invaluable contributions and for sharing their wisdom, experiences, and perspectives. Your insights have enriched our understanding of leadership and ignited a flame of inspiration. To our dedicated attendees, your active participation, thoughtful questions, and unwavering commitment to personal and professional growth have made this event truly special. Your engagement has fueled meaningful dialogue and exchange of ideas, and we are grateful for your presence today. I also want to sincerely thank my business partner, friend Marta Diaz, and social media consultant Peter Tewo. Your hard work and dedication in helping me organize this event and to make it all possible are greatly appreciated. Your behind-the-scenes efforts have ensured a seamless and enriching experience for all involved. Thank you. Our event has now come to an end. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.
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 Nice to meet all of you.
Thank you. It was a blessing to be with you all today. Thank you for coming.
Yes. So, the
What's
music.
up, Brenda?
Huh?
See my people on there. How y'all doing? Oh.
Hey, you guys did a great job, and thank you everyone again for the hard work. We did it.
I must
That
say,
was
I really
very
love Mr. James' energy.
What is that, Peter?
what?
Then I must say, I really enjoyed Mr. James' energy, his energy throughout the event. It got me, it cracked me up a lot.
I'm enjoying
Absolutely.
the music and stuff. Y'all rocking. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank
I
you,
see
guys.
Brenda, Angela, Brenda, and Crystal. That's
Yeah.
right. Funny.
All right, guys. We'll connect.
Everyone have a blessed evening. It was a beautiful
All right.
event.
See y'all later.
Thank you very much.
God bless.
God bless everyone.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. See
Go
you.
out there and lead.
That's right.
Go
Like
out
it,
there and
read it.
lead.
That's
Let your
right.
light shine.
That's right.
Be authentic. You
Yeah.
all are special.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys. I just saved the chat, so we can say goodbye now.
Okay.
Meeting ends.